Hey gang, it's Seth. I'm going to do hopefully several videos today. You may hear by my voice and for my sniffles, which I apologize for because I know they can be kind of annoying, so I'm going to try to limit them not right now. But the whole thing about being sick spurred me to make this other video. I have a condition called sarcoidosis. I call it sarcoid. And that's part and parcel with why I sound the way I do. In short, so two of my daughters had a cold, which amounted to nothing more than like a runny nose and some coughing. But the way that affects me is it affects my sarcoid. And I'm going to go on and read some definitions real quick. This is from lung.org. Sarcoidosis is a disease that causes your immune system to overreact, which can lead to health issues. It can cause lung damage, skin rashes, eye disease, and can affect other organs of the body. It's not as bad as, well, for me it's not as bad as that sounds. MayoClinic.org says sarcoid is the growth of tiny collections of inflammatory cells called granulomas in different parts of your body, most often in the lungs, lymph nodes, eyes, and skin. They believe sarcoid results from the body's immune system responding to an unknown substance, which is usually something inhaled from the air. There is no cure, blah, blah, blah. And it talks about it can be treated with steroids, in terms of it putting it into repression or suppression, whatever it is. But more often than not, you just treat the symptoms. And WebMD says it's an inflammatory disease that affects multiple organisms in the body, but mostly the lungs and lymph nodes. Talks about the other stuff, granulomas. We talked about inflammation and all that. What else did I have up here? Looks like it. Diagnosis. Nothing. Bronchoscopy. I'll maybe tell you about that. Oh, symptoms. Reddish bumps or patches on the skin, red or teary eyes or blurred vision, swollen or painful joints, enlarged lymph nodes in the neck, armpits, and groin, and chest and around the lungs, a hoarse voice, pain in the hands and feet because of cysts, kidney stones, enlarged liver, nervous system effects, hearing loss, seizures, dementia, and depression. Okay, so that sounds really scary, probably. And to some people it should be. And to me, maybe it should be scarier than it is. But to put it into some contrast, a lot of the symptoms that you get initially, they mirror some of the symptoms of lymphoma, which is cancer in the lymphatic system. So the first series of tests that I went through, and the second and third series of tests were all to rule out lymphoma. So if you have a choice to get sarcoidosis or lymphoma, you want to opt for sarcoidosis. Bear with me for a second. Hi, get up in my face. Sorry, pulling up my notes now. So yeah, it's not as bad as it sounds for me personally. When it gets bad is when it gets inside of your lungs, inside of your liver, and I have it, like I mentioned, in my lymphatic system. So when it talks about the body reacting to substances or whatever, what happens to me, in what a lot of people say, is that so for example, if you get a cold, hopefully you're normal and not like me, your body's usually fighting it for anywhere from 5 to 10 days, a week or two before you actually get sick. Now, the way my body reacts is the moment that it detects an illness like my daughter's colds, my immune system decides to just floor it, fire off the nitrous, and go into overdrive. So within the first week, I start to get really sick, really tired. I think in a couple of my videos I mentioned I'm just tired, and that's part of the reason. Then when I actually get sick, like you hopefully do after your body's been fighting it, my immune system is kind of tapped out at that point. So I'm just even more tired, more exhausted. It's really annoying. Over something like a trivial cold, my body just gets decimated. There's been several times when I had bad allergy days, and that has happened. It sends me into this spiral for a couple days. Some people, I'm sure most of you know who Bernie Mac is. He was a well-known comedian, and he died. He did not die from sarcoidosis. He died from complications of it. What happened was he had it actually in his lungs. When those granulomas and those oh my gosh, the inflammation happens in the lungs. It obviously affects the lungs. It loses the elasticity. It becomes irritated, and it gets pretty severe very fast. As I mentioned, they treated him with steroids, which is what they rarely do because you don't want to be taking steroids. But from what I've always read, the steroid injections put it into remission very quickly and very efficiently. Now, the problem with him was he had it in his lungs, and he ended up getting a very bad case of pneumonia, which also affects the lungs. So in concert with the sarcoidosis, them having to not be able to treat him with steroids because it counteracted some of the medicine that he was supposed to be taking, he ended up dying from the complications of the two issues. I get swollen lymph nodes here and in my armpits, like somewhat randomly. Like I said, it's generally if my body's getting sick and I don't know it. Well, at that point I start to know it, and I deal with that. And then, like I said, the exhaustion is the most annoying thing. Real world problems with my sarcoidosis is that some days, if I have something planned, if I had something to do, whether it's with my girls, with my friends, or by myself, like today I was in bed until 11:30, just because I'm tired and run down. Like there's not enough sleep to get. It doesn't seem to help. So like I mentioned earlier, you don't really deal with the disease. You deal with the symptoms. I've increased my overall vitamin C intake, drinking natural juices and stuff like that. Trying to get rest, trying to make sure I'm hydrated. But there's not much I can do beyond that. So it's kind of annoying at times. One other thing is, in concert with a lot of the other problems that I have, that it makes things worse. Excuse me. I mentioned before I'm a disabled veteran, so I have several issues, and a lot of them kind of roll together. So I have a lot of back problems that affect my sleep. Well, when I already have sarcoid now, and it's kicking in, I'm tired because I'm not sleeping. Well, now I'm tired, even more run down because the sarcoid is sending my immune system, into overdrive, and my body's kind of burning all of its energy. So I get tired from that. On top of having back issues, on top of the anxiety and all that other junk. So sometimes I get really out of it. That I try not to let it affect me, but that, saying it doesn't, it would be a lie to myself or anybody else. That's Sarcoid in a nutshell. I'll post the links that I had below, and I hope you enjoy them, learn something, learn a little bit about me, but more importantly, about the disease sarcoid. Implore you to look it up. Yeah, I'll tell you. So one of the things I had to do is get a bronchoscopy, which is when they take this is a funny story, I think. But again, I'm cynical and laugh at things probably most people shouldn't laugh at. What bronchoscopy is, they take a tube, they go down into your neck and then go into your lungs individually, and they take biopsies. In that tube, there's a needle that will go through your lung. In my case, they can do bronchoscopies without this, but I mentioned I had the lymph nodes swollen all around my lungs. And they took samples, biopsies. So they had to go with the needle, take the sample, come out, bring it out, do all that other stuff. I don't know. But so in the onset of all this, they wouldn't let me eat for about 2.5 days because they were doing blood tests, didn't want to, I don't know. They told me I couldn't eat or drink for 2.5 days, so I'm out of it, I'm cranky. They tell me what they're going to do, I'm like, yeah, whatever. So they get me in the doctor's office. This was in Bethesda in California, the Naval Medical Clinic. And they're like, so the first thing we're going to do is have you snort a syringe of lidocaine gel, which is anesthetic. And I was like, well, why are you having me do that? They're like, well, it's going to lube your nose. I'm sorry, it's going to lube your throat for when they send the thing down. And it's also going to numb it so it won't feel as comfortable. Like, and at this point, I'm out of it. I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Snorting a syringe of lidocaine gel sounds amazing right now. So he's like, are you ready? I'm like, yeah. He puts it in, and then I snort it, and then I'm like, okay, I got a mouthful of lidocaine gel now. And he's like, well, I'm like, well, what should I do with this in my mouth? He's like, oh, you can just swallow it. It'll probably do better because it'll numb your throat a little anyway. I'm like, oh, okay. Swallow it. And I'm like, well, thanks. It's the first thing I've eaten in like 2.5 days, doctor. And then he's like, he kind of laughed a little bit. And he's like, so we're going to put this thing in your IV, and it's going to basically feel like you've taken about 20 shots at once. So you're going to know what's going on for the most part. You'll be responsive. You'll hear us, but you won't really know or care what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, sounds good. So they put it in my IV, and they're like, do you feel it yet? Do you feel it yet? No. Do you feel it yet? No. And then all of a sudden, like, my head is like this. And like in the movies where you see the room swim, like, one side gets bigger and kind of goes, that's how it was. Like, I'm ready. Like that, And they say, had me say, They slide the thing in my throat, down my larynx. Like, now you can't talk because it's in your larynx. And mind you, I'm really screwed up. I'm tired, exhausted, out of it, drugged, and no big deal. They're going about their business. But then as I get into my, like, left side of my lung over here almost, I can feel it pressing. It's not uncomfortable. It was just weird, Like, and I'm like, dude, this is my lung. Is he, destroying my lung? And I hear the doctor. There's several doctors over there, and in short, the guy doing it was his first time. So he's like, okay, how do I get it in here? Now what about this? And the doctor's like, oh, just kind of do this thing here, and I don't know what they're talking about. But I'm like, dude, this guy's experimenting on me. Like, I'm a guinea pig right now in my lungs, and so I can feel it moving around in there. And I'm like, so I got to take the thing all the way back out. And they're like, what? I'm like, I can feel it in my lungs. Like, oh yeah, that's normal. I'm like, why wouldn't you have told me that? Now, so now they got to go all the way back in, all the way back. The new guy's trying to get in there again. It's a funny story. And, yeah, that was an interesting week. Changed my life. Only, that was around. So the reason they found it is they were doing medical screening for me to re-enlist into the Marine Corps. And when they got chest, they do a mandatory, just a chest X-ray for every person re-enlisting. When they did it, they saw lymph nodes swollen, and that kind of kickstarted all this. They sent me to one specialist and another, then to the Naval Hospital, like I mentioned. And that was how the whole Marine Corps experience ended for me, more or less. But, it is what it is. So that's sarcoid. I went on a lot longer than I was planning on. I'll post those links below. Let me know if you have any questions, concerns, if you learned anything. To give me a, hey, thanks for the information, as you're not such an idiot. I'm going to plan on doing 1 or 2 more videos after this, assuming I can stay focused and awake enough. So, go easy, gang. Happy Valentine's Day.